Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back here to the ESL studios in Katowice for the final game of our ESL One Cologne offline qualifiers for today, of course. And one possibly of the most hotly anticipated matches of this entire week. The first team, of course, is comprised of mostly French and Belgian players who have enjoyed an incredible revival of recent times. I've got to say, we've seen them perform super well, of course, through the ESL Pro League. It was a very close game going up against Luminosity in that final. They did fall, but in the E-League right now, they're 8-2. In the ECS, they won 8 out of 8 of their last games, winning 2-0 against teams such as Fnatic, NIP, Dignitas, and also Virtus Pro. G2 looking very, very good right now, and everyone's very interested to see what moves they'll be making next. But their opponent, I think it's pretty easy to say they're arguably the most exciting prospect coming out of the Asian region that we've seen in some time. TyLoo had a blistering run, of course, through the DreamHack Masters Malmo, beating out Luminosity 2-1 in their group before falling in the quarterfinals to Na'Vi. But their goal was to get top 8. They got it, and they're here to go further and hopefully to the major. But we'll have to wait and see what they can do in these next few games. We're going to pass it over to the desk now to take us into this one because the players are out the back getting ready, so we won't bother them. But Alex, take us in.
Thanks very much, Mitch. He's actually set the scene beautifully. It's a scary one for, well, fans alike. TyLoo, can they kind of replicate the success they found at Malmo, or are we going to be really disappointed and deflated by sitting there going, that's not the same team? Or do we have a real competitive match here? Because G2, I think it's safe to say, are going to be hot favourites because of their performance recently. Like, not only the Pro League finals, but just online as well at ECS, they've been blowing up.
Yeah, no, they've been playing remarkably well as of late, and this is a team that looked, completely lost, go back 3 months ago.
Not even that long.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're completely revitalized, and they're favorites for a good reason. We don't get to see that much of TyLoo. When we do get to see them, most of the time it's versus other Chinese teams, which is not really too much of a testing or a big test for them at this point.
I guess what you could say is the sample size against the top European teams is very small. Yeah, it's very tiny. Yeah. So it's really hard to make a prediction of how they will do, but what we know about them is that the depth of their individual skill is insane, because they will always have one after the other coming into the play. If someone's falling back, they have another guy just coming in and picking up the slack. So that's something good to be relying on. Also, the fact that obviously the European teams don't get to play against TyLoo all too often. They get to study the demos and whatnot and theorize on how they play, but it's going to be a different beast for actually playing against TyLoo than it is to theorize about it.
Now, wouldn't you say that, we often bring this up when you're in a kind of lesser played region, like we used to do it for Renegades when they were VoxM and all, that is to some extent an advantage for TyLoo, that people aren't going to be aware of their playstyle, but demos are available. So let's move away from that and just actually focus on their style of play. Does their style of play differ? I know people suggest that it looks a little bit different, but is that not just the individuals as opposed to the way they approach the game?
I think their approach to the game is different, and it has been, even if you go back a couple of years and watch them play during the, their ESWC qualifiers and that type of thing. They've always had a bit of a unique way of approaching the game, and you could see that, last time they were in Europe and we were playing Cobble, we saw them playing the CT side of Cobble in a completely different way that didn't make sense to any of us watching, but they made it work, even though it's very razor edge kind of
it was passive, right?
Yeah, it's super passive, and they were so heavily relying on crossfires and basically putting full trust into their teammates, which is really cool to see when it works out. But it's obviously interesting to see what goes, what happens when it doesn't, and how they actually manage to deal with that. But very different approach from what we see normally from EU and NA teams.
And also what differentiates them from a lot of their Asian competition is that they are good at taking initiatives. Right. So that when they go down a numbers on CT side, maybe it's a 3-on-5, they are not scared to just have two guys trying to roam around the map to make a play, to try to equalize the situations. So, I mean, when you add on all those little things, they are a very competitive team, but G2 right now is red hot, so this is probably the worst prospect that they could be looking at as the opening game here in the qualifier.
It's pretty rough, but they do have someone within the team who has seen most things at this point. He's been through it all, and that's Mo. He's been in TyLoo or iterations of top Chinese teams for the better part of 2005 now, probably even earlier than that. So they do have someone to be that kind of a calming voice if things go awry and kind of bring them back to it.
And we will explore that further after the veto. Now, one map is all they have an opportunity to in this battleground, and currently Train and Mirage are off the list. They've been scratched.
It's not a lot of imagination on either team. They're just instantly
what they always
what they do.
Yeah.
So now it becomes interesting. Overpass also being a map that G2 trying to steer away from. It's also TyLoo's been showing up on that map quite a lot as well.
Yeah, I'm expecting this last ban.
Damn
from,
it, TyLoo.
That could have actually been their pocket thing, because we talk about, we don't really get to see TyLoo that much, and they're not traveling to as many tournaments as, well, for instance, G2, right? So they could have been sitting home in China, practicing Nuke day in, day out ever since their minor qualifier.
And these are actually two maps that are quite good for TyLoo that are left here. It's going to be Cobblestone or Cash. It's going to be Cash.
So that's a G2 map G2 love.
Yeah.
And well, to the bright side of TyLoo, it's probably their strongest maps. That's one of the maps where they beat Luminosity at in Malmo. But G2 right now on Cash seem pretty unstoppable.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, especially see this side on TyLoo. If my memory serves me right, they are quite passive once again towards that middle, which is something we don't see from a lot of teams. They like to play the sides, so let's see how G2 adjusts to that situation.
And just quickly, I know it's quite a long question to answer quickly, but can their passive style of play be exploited by solid players? Like we said, Scream and Shocks have been insane right now. If they are turning up, surely that style of play is going to be rather
detrimental.
Yeah,
I would agree with that. It's especially because you rely heavily on, with this two passive playstyle, you rely heavily on retakes, but what are you really going to retake with if you have Shocks and Scream just blowing your heads off the second you show yourself? You're not really going to have any manpower, needs to work with if people just go down immediately.
Yeah, and they're just going to be going for that knife round. So we have an opportunity to start our predictions. You have a little bit of time to justify your answer as well. G2 TyLoo, gents. Do you said already it's a pretty tough start for TyLoo. If they want to make an impact, I mean, they have taken a best of 3 versus major champions Luminosity. That's kind of their biggest feather in their cap currently.
It's definitely a solid result, but obviously, again, we talk about this being able to do it more than once.
And a jet lag Luminosity, let's not forget that as well.
Well, yeah. For me, I'm still going to go with G2. They have been playing like one of the best teams in the world as of late, and Cash is home turf for them. So I'm expecting them to not necessarily have a super easy victory, but a comfortable one.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, definitely G2 is on a rise right now. The only thing is like maybe the curveball by TyLoo, if they played very differently from what G2 is anticipating, maybe they'll get a strong start going on. You never know, things could happen. But at the end of the day, right now, how G2 is playing, they should be taking care of this handily.
Okay, sounds like we were expecting to see the Samurai rise supreme. It's going to be exciting, though, nonetheless, to see what TyLoo can do. A bit of a wild card, there's no doubt about it. A wild card going up against, as they've already put it, G2 in a form we have not seen in, well, 24 months, I think, in the words of Natu. It's been a long time since we saw this G2 turning up, and now they won that spot at the Major. Standing in their way for their first game is TyLoo, and let's see how this one does play out.
Thank you very much, Machine, and indeed, it is going to be the final map of the day here. Myself and Meadows will be bringing it to you. G2 versus TyLoo. They've already shown us quite a bit of their prowess in the past, and I think that comes back over at Malmo when they were able to upset a big way against LG, knocking them out there. But now the big question is, can they do it again, surprise here, and actually qualify for the Major itself?
That's a really good point. They have got a victory over Luminosity. They've also got victories over Renegades, Immunity on this map, fairly convincing victories at that. So they're no mugs when it comes to Cash, but G2, right? Like, they've been ridiculous as of late. Scream has been hitting so many shots that just seem impossible. Shocks has been stepping up as well. I agree with the desk. I think this should be going the way of G2 and fairly convincingly, but I don't want to count TyLoo out. I think they do have upset potential in this tournament. I think there will be a couple of slips and slides going across. We're just going to have to wait and find out.
And with you guys, we will be getting into the match now. So with TyLoo starting off on the CT side, we've already got some action getting going here. Somebody picking up the first frag there for his team. Captain Mo moves in and grabs another one, but the guys on G2 are responding just as strong. At the end of the day, those Scream picking up one of the final frags. He's fancy as the last man left rolling here. And in the 1v2, he's got the members of G2 boxed into the site and actually taps down one of them. That's eliminating Shocks. Scream's the last one going. Going to be blind as a bat, but so will Scream. And for the time being, he will fall off the site. And let Scream move it in to take a little bit more control.
Mind games being played right now. Scream is going to continue the push onto the B side. And Fancy was thinking about wrapping himself through mid. As it stands though, Scream will be able to get himself onto the site now. He has no Kevlar. Could be a bit of an issue going forward, but of course if that USP rips his head off his shoulders, it doesn't matter anyway. 50 seconds left to play with, and still, seems like we're stuck in a stalemate, both players refusing to budge an inch.
It's a game of chicken. Who wants to peek first here? Scream doesn't even want to go for the plant. He's running a bit low on time though. Still a decent amount to play with considering he's already up on the site and whatnot, but really wanting to check all of his avenues to make sure there is no chance That fancy surprise that just rushes right into the site, and indeed it will play out in that direction. Scream, though, ready to watch for the peek before it's happening, and he spots him. And it's going to be 2 taps. The headshot will be found against Fancy, and G2 will indeed win this very suspenseful pistol round at the end of the day.
I mentioned both Scream and Shox before, saying how well they've been playing. Body is an absolute monster on Cash, especially on the CT side. He loves to play in checker, he loves to play over on the B side, so there's a lot of difficulty here for TyLoo, but they're going to go for the Force, as you'd expect, on their first CT round after the pistol. CZ's 5-7's the order of the day. Bit of utility thrown in the mix, looking for those frags, but I was curious if we're going to see an aggressive push up mid. You'll see some teams go for that one. It is pretty much just default, though, for TyLoo. They've given up mid control, trying to stack on both of the sites. 3 players B, 2 on A. Get some crossfire down.
And so now Screen pushing his way back up there too. Let's see if he can catch anything at the beginning of this round. Won't be the case though. Somebody is right up in the doorway, waiting to see if he'll be able to grab anybody else from the opposing side of things, but won't be the case just as of yet. G2 are taking their time about this one since it is the 4-step eco from TyLoo. They may be able to surprise with some cheeky positioning. See if they can take some players down in that regard to upset the economy of the T side right from the get-go of things here. But now they start to line themselves up, and it's going to turn into a pretty direct A hit.
Yeah, this is going to be full on A from G2. Now, the good news for TyLoo is they have 4 players that are moving into close enough proximity, and somebody's watching the close angle. He goes straight past RPK. It's going to cost him his life. RPK gets picked off, though, from range from Captain Mo, who's gone for a second one as well with a 5-7. Here comes the CZ. It's gone horribly wrong. The House of Cards is crumbling, and it falls to Shox. He's already picked up 1 kill. It would be 1v3. Second frag comes down for him, but the strength in numbers, and TyLoo somehow, some way, drag it back and pick up the second round.
We can hear him in the other room. They're bringing the hype to it as well. They want to try to shut this down, so with that good response coming back in, they immediately tie things up at 1-for-1. However, contrary to what we've been seeing from quite a few of our teams today, where they've sort of just taken that second round upset and gone directly into an eco, the guys from G2 are going to force this right back up. Tech 9 armor buys coming in. RPK going to be going a little bit lighter with just a P250 behind his own, but they want to try to aggressively get back into this. They do not want to let TyLoo take the lead early on the CT side.
Makes a lot of sense for G2 to go in here, because even if they save, they wouldn't have a great buy next round either way. This is a way to just crush the economy before it can get bolstered from TyLoo, who are a very loud team. If you can silence them, similar to Immortals, maybe susceptible to tilting. And already G2 have made some headway onto the site. Fancy's there with the AK headshot. The bomb has been planted, so decent so far from G2, but afterwards it's going to be going all the way of TyLoo plus the defuse. So a solid round from TyLoo, losing SMGs, keeping 2 assault rifles in play, looking good.
The initial entry was found by G2, and they basically get free control of the A-bomb set after they pick up that kill. Mainly because of the fact that the guys on TyLoo were playing it pretty passively, but after that, I mean, once they're in their post plants one, they just go flatline entirely. No other responses beyond maybe 1 or 2 other pickups against TyLoo, and that's a fairly simplistic retake that they were able to get. Going into this next round, the G2 are just going to upgrade pistols. They did find the plants, so a little bit of extra cash flow will allow for these deagles to come into the picture, but beyond that, it is going to be a fairly lighter buy than we did see in the last round, which should, in theory, make it a much easier round for TyLoo to close out.
In theory, but there are 4 deagles in play from G2, so never quite sure what to expect. And there we go, Shox has one in his hands, he's going to make it work. Captain Mo goes down. Fancy, meanwhile, does answer back onto RPK, but G2 do have a little bit of wiggle room now. Shox is very low, however. But again, TyLoo giving up mid-control after losing the player on highway. So there are some positions to exploit from G2 if they're feeling adventurous enough.
And somebody placing himself just behind the forklift there too. Whoa! They talk about his 1-taps. And there's going to be one right there as he takes down Attacker, eliminating him and thinning the numbers very, very slowly here against TyLoo to allow G2 to pave their way into this A-bomb site.
I think now is because they get that kill onto highway, it does force TyLoo to put 2 players around the A site, and you can now see that DD is going to be moving his way around the back, trying to get the flank in effect. It could very well prove to be costly for G2 if they play this much slower. There's 2 players who are very low, however, and Fancy is going to come with the kill. The flank has worked as well from TyLoo, so it was looking oh so good for G2, but it's going to just completely capitulate, and TyLoo do salvage the round, but that was looking so sketchy for a few moments.
Yeah, just unfortunately G2 just can't get good positioning there towards the end of the round, and TyLoo are able to find the edge against G2 to be able to close that out against them. Scream as well, not really able to connect any of those shots. All those guys were so low that he was looking at too. A player pushing him back up there through highway, and another one sitting behind the truck angle. Can't connect any of those shots at the end after he finds a very nice 1-tap there earlier on. Sort of seemed like he used all his mojo earlier on in the round and couldn't transfer any of it to the end of it.
There'll be some promising signs, though, from G2 in rounds where you think they're just going to subside and drift away. They are making a real go at it, making it competitive. But you got to say, TyLoo, props to them. They started this well after losing the first round. Here's a boost up, changing pace a little bit. Oh, the Chinese. Meanwhile, RPK watching for the push round on B. DD went for the flank the last time under very different circumstances, though. TyLoo had to go for a power play. G2 just filtering out Nip-esque. It has become the norm, though, to be fair, on the T side.
And for these guys now, still sitting back, running the timer down. Mainly going to be Attacker waiting around the corner for these guys, but they do spot the door opening. They're just going to molly it off. No one even really pushing in to close it. Attacker posted up as well inside of the Shroud spot. We'll see if we can take some of these guys down before they even get their way into the site. Very, very big patience game it often is for the player that's placed himself up on top of there. Captain Mo is going to go down at the start of this. They haven't found Attacker just as of yet. And with that kill, actually some of the rotations moving themselves closer to the site. Attacker that was going to waste no time at all. As soon as he spots Shock, just fires right off there. Even looking for a second kill, and he's going to find it against RPK. Somebody coming in to support, takes down Screamer, trying to push his way outside of the squeaky room. Doesn't work out. And with that, most of the G2 offensive is now dead.
Attacker will get the plaudits for getting 2 kills, but somebody's kill was massive. It was so instrumental. If he falls down, it leaves Attacker in all sorts of trouble. He's gone down anyway. The strength in numbers approach again from TyLoo shines out. And they do take a 4-1 lead. That was a rifle round 1, so proving that they're not just going to come off the back of a weakened economy. They can take down G2 when they stand firm as well. Now G2 likely will go for a half fight, depending on how much influence they want to put onto the AWP, and there we go. It's going to be half buys across the board.
Not enough money to justify going for the force up here. Would be a lot of players downgrading themselves. So TyLoo, they get the edge, and now they're going to be able to keep it for a little bit longer here too. As another eco round, and they've already been able to manage these quite well. So he's going for some shots early on here to try and upset the balance a bit, but not going to be finding anything. And we saw how close it was at the end of the round too. Shocks though as he's boosted up. Again finding another connection here. He's found one in the past, and now he picks up an additional one against Captain Mo.
From the exact same position as well. Almost the carbon copy of the last time. So last time G2 weren't able to make the most of this as a result of DD's flank round the back. But DD now finds himself isolated from the rest of his team on B. They have Fancy who can sweep his way from one site to the other. But is it going to be on time? Because G2 are looking to put down the hammer right here, right now. They're already sending 2 players off onto the site. And Smith lands their headshot onto DD. The weapon is going to get traded across for the terrorists. And that bomb will get planted shortly afterwards. G2 in a great position, but there's a lot of grenades to play with for TyLoo, and they're starting to toss them out onto the site. Landing here, there, and everywhere. The bomb is going to get planted, though, from G2. But only the M4 to work with.
Bit of a shuffle there to get those players in a good position that are on the site itself because the molly's blocking them up. And that's going to go away now. Attacker finding the first kill. Takes a player out closer towards the middle, and somebody just leaps himself in there. Unfortunately for himself, is taken down by Body, but Fancy is able to respond. Bit of a heavy cost against him, but look at the spray coming in through the panel. Almost is going to completely take down RPK. He's just left alive at the end of the day, but they're wasting a lot of time. And not only this too, but Attacker's been digged down very low. 19 HP left for him. Fancy's not doing too much better at 13. Scream's going to work his way back in. There's one. The defuse is coming in. He's going to stop it. Attacker finds that frag, but now, has he left enough time for himself to defuse this bomb? I think he's just going to have enough. And with that, the clutch comes in once again from a member of TyLoo. Attacker pulls up a 3K clutch, and they keep the lead going for themselves 5-1 against G2.
Mate, if I had bet on that 1v1 with Scream to miss that, I would have bet my house on it. I'd now be homeless. What was that? He had 3 or 4 bullets to land 1 shot, and the round is theirs. Instead, G2 somehow loose around that should never have been lost.
Looked good going into that too, with how casually he takes down the first player. It's just the player that's not moving turns out to be the hardest one to eliminate, and it's going to start off strong once again for TyLoo. Captain Mo pushes himself out. There is a quick response from Shocks though, moves inside, takes down somebody.
G2 have had opportunities, it's just that TyLoo have held on for dear life. They are scrapping for every kill, every round. G2 now concede a player deficit. They do have Scream and Shocks alive with RPK. There's still a lot of danger, a lot of threat from G2's side, but TyLoo looking good here. Again, mid-control's been given up. They seem to be very happy just to give that away for G2. Not too bothered about it.
Look at how aggressive Attacker's being now too. Pushing his way out, there's going to be nobody watching this sort of an aggressive push. Most of the players now have started to shift over to line up for the B hit. into that site. But Attacker's going to be able to get this read, and they're now starting to shift their players away from the A site entirely. Fancy moving in just to make sure there isn't going to be a Z split coming in to try and drive a wedge between the A site defenders. But TyLoo are ready for this one, and this could end up being a very rough take for G2 unless they properly smoke things off.
Because Attacker is still wrapping himself around the back. He's going to get the drop onto screen. The bomb's been put down as well. Can Shocks deliver some crazy play. Shifting across to the AK, and Fancy from Heaven is there. TyLoo move yet another round ahead. That is now 6 in a row. He lost the pistol. Every round barring that has gone their way.
Another buy coming in from G2 though, so another chance to try and bounce back against this. As these rounds have been extremely close. So close, in fact, that TyLoo is still sitting on the brink as far as their economy is concerned, with the exception of maybe Attacker. He's been a good player to keep alive at the end of a lot of these rounds. Everybody else is sitting at most around $2,000, definitely a lot less than that, which would almost immediately put them onto an eco should G2 win even a single round.
What I will say is the best is yet to come from G2. They have a very solid CT side on Cash, so TyLoo, they've started this well, but they can't rest. They have to fight for every round as they've been doing so far. UMP in the hands of DD, as you said before, their economy is still a little bit shaky. So G2 could crack them and suddenly bring this back to equality. That being said, it's going to be another A play. And we've seen TyLoo be able to deal with this before, Blue, so you can see that G2 aren't sure if there's another player on the boost. Last time it was Attacker. This time it's on the site itself. You can see there Fancy just behind the red container.
Fancy along with Attacker, both sitting behind Big Red now as the push starts to come out, and it's going to come out in a big form to Attacker. A little bit aggressive with the positioning to try and take down some of G2. They're fairly passive about this push, but with Fancy behind Big Red, he's going to impact in a big way. Finds 2 picks up, swaps over to the AK, and now Attacker's going to push out as well. Finds another pickup. Smith's finally responding with something for his own team, but Shocks fails to impact there as he moves in. He's going to go down to Attacker. Smith tries to clutch this out for his team, but there's no way he's pulling out that 1v3 with so much pressure coming in so quickly from TyLoo. Somebody's going to close it out, and another one gets stacked up onto the board for the CTs.
Yeah, tactical timeout call from G2 early on as well. Only round 9, but they feel like this could be slipping away at an increasingly alarming rate. So the snowball descending down the hill, and G2 are going to try and put a blockade. But yeah, I was saying before, TyLoo's economy was looking a bit shaky. Now it's G2 who find themselves in a half-buy scenario.
I mean, this has been the thing too, is at the very least G2 have been able to keep it close, finding consistent plants and whatnot. The past couple of rounds, TyLoo have really sort of established a footing here and have been able to actually just really start decimating the entire offensive in its entirety, because G2 has sort of run out of ideas, and TyLoo has found a fairly sufficient counter for a lot of this. That last round was almost flawless play from TyLoo, with the exception of 1 or 2 trades that ended up coming out there at the end.
It's not a case of G2 being predictable. They have tried each area of the map. They've won through mid, they've gone A, they've gone B. You've seen very aggressive TyLoo rotations around the back of G2 and them just getting caught. Attacker's done it, DD's done it as well. So there's a lot of food for thought right now for G2, and just nothing's been going their way. What I will say is there are some pretty promising signs. They've had a bunch of clutch scenarios that could have easily gone the way of G2. It's not as if they've been battered and bruised to a 7-1 score. Another day this could easily be like a 4-4, 4-3 kind of scoreline. So I think they've got to keep their chins up here, but there's no doubting that TyLoo have looked incredibly good so far.
So clutch is not really going the way of G2, mainly because of the fact that they're underestimating rotations and whatnot, and a couple big slip-ups by Scream, notably, in a few situations. But one player for me that's just been incredibly absent so far from G2 that we've been used to seeing as a little bit more of a consistent staple is RPK, so far only, I think, with a single frag on the board in the 8 rounds that have been played out so far.
Yeah, 1 kill, 2 assists. Body's only on 2 kills as well. He's been a guy that's really been stepping up to the plate. A lot of people have been comparing him to Devil, because obviously they both came in around the same time, saying Body's definitely the better acquisition in that sense. But you wouldn't judge it off this performance so far, that's for sure. Again, though, what I will say is his CT side, his B hold, is godlike from Checkered. He is incredibly good there, so I feel like that could be his moment to shine. But we are live back into the action again, ladies and gents. G2 happy that maybe they can start to bring this one back. As far as this round's concerned, it's Tech9s with a Deagle and Kevlar, but quite a few grenades to play with.
We are going to need to see G2 get some semblance of a scoreline before they get to that CT side if they want to have any chance of bouncing back. Because if we end up like 12-3, even 13-2 or anything beyond that, then it's going to be extremely hard for G2 to make that kind of a big impact that you're looking forward to seeing on their CT side. But actually getting started pretty quickly here on this round. RPK finds the first strike, moves in, able to take down DD, but somebody leaping back down finds 2 kills for himself. Smiths and Body both being eliminated. They're onto the site though, and Scream trying to hold things off, but Attacker responding with another pickup. Shocks finding one for the side of G2. And we're into a 2v2 situation, but another mistake and he made. Scream gets too aggressive, leaps across the bounds, and is going to be taken down by Attacker, boxing them out of the site.
Shox without any grenades either. Can't smoke off one side or flash himself out, but lands the headshot anyway. This will be a massive round for G2. A 1v1, Attacker goes for the peak. Shox is going to try the spray, lands the headshot. And maybe that is G2's way back into this map. After the tactical timeout, and they win on a half buy, so that's going to bolster their economy instantly. As I assume.
It was a nice replay.
I was going to say, is that a run boost? And it just turned out to be absolutely nothing. So fair enough.
I wanted to highlight the failed run boost. That was the key moment that determined that TyLoo were going to lose this round.
Just get wrecked, TyLoo. And this is the problem. We said this before. TyLoo have been circling around this economic downturn for a while, and finally the crash has happened. So CZ's 5-7s. But we did see them force buy with a very similar composition of weaponry and win the second round away from G2.
The guys from G2 going to be looking to take that early mid control once again. Scream is put up on top of there to try and play around with the guys in middle from TyLoo. Big presence from them, though, is going to be pretty deep in the A bomb site, very aggressively positioned there. We already have Attacker leaping inside. Somebody tries to go for that aggressive play there, too, but we've seen before Shox taking that position many times, as has Scream just beside the doorway to stop any of that from really being too potent. And immediately he will get the edge there by eliminating one guy from TyLoo.
Better start for G2. Again, this is where DD may very well try and wrap himself around the back. The thing is, though, are the rest of TyLoo going to be able to stand long enough for this rotation to be fruitful? RPK will be putting down Attacker, a player that we highlighted as maybe underperforming, picks up 2 kills. There's Shox and Scream as well, looking a lot better for G2, albeit against TyLoo with pistols, so can't get too carried away. But actually, their economy is still not quite good enough. Fancy's only on 1.9k, so he's going to have another CZ.
This is, like, utility-wise as well, this is going to be an abysmal buy for TyLoo. They're just going to have the very bar minimum basics here. 2 smokes for the entire team. A couple random flashbangs, and I think one of them picked up a decoy, which has already been used. So really not working with all that much at all, and 1 smoke was going to be used very early on in the round to box out any aggressive mid play that we may have seen from Smith. It's good, because it did look like he was going to try to go for that, but still, they've got to be very, very careful with where those are used.
No kits, even on TyLoo, so this could get precarious very quickly, especially as they've conceded the first kill. That opens up things nicely now for G2. Second frag comes in from RPK, and a third courtesy of RPK. So definitely shifting through the gears. Single-handedly opens up B right for the taking, and the bomb is going to go right through that, transition through onto the B site.
This pause has been a great sort of recentering for RPK in general. I mean, I think we did it on the pause that we only had 1 frag. He's since sextupled that up to 6-9, to 6-9 as his scoreline now. So he's been doing a fantastic job ever since we've gotten off the pause. And for the guys here in TyLoo, not a whole lot left to do for them at the end of the round. Even just trying to go for the save, they're going to have troubles doing that because Scream is waiting at the edge of the squeaky hallway. And he's going to be able to take down Captain Mo.
I feel like this could be just a straight-up misplay from TyLoo going for that buy in this round. They're at a 7-3 lead. Okay, if you tap out, you're going to concede it to 7-4. But then you're going to have a really solid buy instead of a lack of grenades, no kits, a CZ only for Fancy. So there was no rush to get this buy in. I wonder if that's going to end up costing them massively. Because now, into the next round, even if they save this M4, which is looking like it may not be a complete guarantee, nice shot though onto Scream, they're still going to have very little to play with. Like mid-2000s to high 2000s, that's it. That's all the money they have in the world.
Attacker even has the rifle too, so there's that sort of imposing threat of, well, do we buy it on a 2K now because he does have a rifle, so we want to have some sort of semblance of an offensive, and that's exactly what they are going to do, upgrading those pistols still. Captain Mo picking up the Deagle even, so not really going for the full-on save here, but so a much bigger focus on mid-presence this time too. In fact, everybody working their way out there, keeping Attacker plastered a little bit further back behind the white box since they can put that rifle to use at longer range here, but he's going to have to very quickly move up to the A site, and unfortunately, all of this doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things because it's going to be a B execute anyway. They're going to try to waterfall their way into the site through the vents. Actually, doesn't end up working out too badly, but now they've gotten control of things, and Shox is going to get on the flank. So that 1 kill that I believe Fancy picked up is going to be the only one they find here.
Yeah, Waterfall not able to drown G2 on that occasion, but not to harp on the point too much. Yeah, had they saved the previous round, they had a full buy in round 12. As it stands, though, they're going to have a buy up, but again, Glass Cannon coming in for Captain Mo. They have M4s elsewhere with grenades, no incendiaries, just the 1 defuse kit as well. So far from out the woods just yet for TyLoo. G2 have been back in winning ways. That's 4 uninterrupted rounds now for the favourites coming into this game, I think it's safe to say, especially considering it's Cash that's in. And Captain Mo's ate quite a bit of damage as well from that Molly, so he's going to have to just turn tail and run away. The smoke's landing all across the board, but it's a fake. G2 are actually going on to A, and TyLoo have knee-jerked reacted so quickly that no one's on the site. It's a free plant for G2.
All of a sudden now, and it all came from this pause too, it's done such miracles for G2. They've just turned themselves around entirely. TyLoo are being mind-gamed out the wazoo here now as well, in addition to the fact that they're just being, like, the fragging power from G2 has also increased immensely as well. I mean, we're seeing it again, it's just a shutdown now. All of a sudden G2 going back into that dominant form. Although this round, things are not done just as of yet. They've got a player very close up on the site, Attacker, and they're trying to wrap his way around. They don't even notice he's this close, but that's a good recovery from Shox. He's able to wrap it back in, and Captain Mo running out of time. No kit currently in hand either. He's just going to walk right into his opponent's faces, and Scream will shut it down.
G2 fall back yet another round. TyLoo, their economy, feel like just a save, half-buy situation, get a full buy into the next round, the last round of the half. And it seems that they feel the same way. This does mean that G2 will be favourites to take a 7th round now. What a comeback this has been. TyLoo struggling. Gasping for air. Smith's up on the boost. We've seen Shox deliver a couple of one-taps with his Deagles. No one home in mid, or at least not far away enough for the AWP to get into play. In actual fact, it's somebody who's just below the boost. Maybe peering up with his 5-7.
It's been a favorite sort of play area for the guys on GTUs before, but Fanty's actually going to pick up the first kill this round. A lot of players moving in towards the squeaky door there. He'll be able to pick up the first kill against Shox. Finally actually finding a victory there, where it's almost always actually been G2 that managed to hold the fort there.
AK in the hands of TyLoo as well as a result of Shox's demise, and I feel like he definitely should have done better in that situation. You feel like he's going to get 1 or 2 kills at the very least. That does open up a bit of a gap now for G2, but they're looking to try and fill that in with an A play. No shenanigans this round, no fakes. All bunching together. Here come the smokes and the flashes. Molly's thrown in over on quad side, making sure they funnel off the defenders. They can focus their attention up on Catwalk. Attacker survived a lot longer than they'd been hoping for, but that is the one sole assault rifle off the hands. But that being said, the 5-7s are coming good, and Smiths and RPK have a huge task ahead of them. Headshot connects from somebody, and now it's all on RPK. 1 frag, 2 frags, they line up for him, but the double peek is more than enough to deal with it. TyLoo dodge bullets. They do pick up an 8th round out of nowhere.
And with that, they're going to keep the lead going strong, at the very least to the end of this half, but taking a very long time to recover from that, as you can see, allowing the guys from G2 to chain 5 together after their only other victory being had in the pistol round. So it's definitely a big falling off from what we've seen before. And heading into this last round, at the very least, they're going to be able to restabilize their buys up to a very good point here to go up against exactly what G2 is going to be bringing to the table as well. 4 AKs, the op in hand, and Body very quickly moving out. Not only this too, but Scream pushing past a Molotov that was tossed out over there on boost. They want very rapid control to move themselves closer to the A bomb site. And just look at how forward pushing Scream is now, all the way up to the site. He should be able to take down Attacker with no problems. Yep, nobody really watching out for him at all. And he's even going to look to take down Fancy too.
Of course with a headshot. What else would it be?
And well, he dies to a headshot.
Live by the sword, die by his sword. There you go. They did sacrifice a lot of control at the expense of health, though. The artillery strikes were good from TyLoo. Shox is going to buy his time. Finally decides to pull the trigger and end the life of Fancy. But meanwhile, elsewhere on the map, somebody retorts in kind, but he gets picked off. Headshots are plenty. TyLoo will lead the half-time at 8-7. But I feel like G2 are about to step things up.
Yeah, definitely, and I mean, a very good recovery to make this much closer than it did appear like it was heading towards. I mean, at a certain point, I was expecting, especially going into that pause, I was expecting to see like a very dominant half, like almost like 12-3, something in that favor. As it was looking like G2 just weren't bringing anything to the table at all here on their T side, but that pause did miracles, and they were able to recover wonderfully here to make this a much closer half.
Power of the pause once again, but we'll find out if TyLoo can reassume dominance in the second half just after this very short commercial break.
common theme here today of teams battling their way back into these matchups in the very late portions of the first half. And we had this once again as TyLoo took the early strides here of our first half on their CT side, but then lost a lot of it after GT took a very important pause, which made a very big impact in the way that they ended up impacting here later on in the first half. So they bounced back quite nicely. It made this an 8-7 half. Now with the side switching, G2 jumps onto the defense with TyLoo taking on the T side.
Absolutely no doubts that pause was the MVP of this game so far for G2. Everything started to go their way after the pause. I believe TyLoo had 7 rounds prior to the pause, now only finished the half on 8. This pistol round is massively important for the Chinese. They need this desperately. Fancy's going to be running with the utility. The rest of the team filling out with Glocks and Kevlar. Pretty standard stuff across the board, and a very slow round from the T's. Not going to be looking to barrel down with any rushes. We play this one passively for now.
Very, very passively on both sides of this one. Reminds us a lot of the pistol round that we had on the first half there too, where both teams sort of just sitting back, waiting for the other one to make the early mistake here, although that happened in the 1v1 situation that we ended up going down to. Whereas this one is happening across the board. TyLoo definitely running down the clock in a very big way, wanting to wait until, I imagine until we get around 40 seconds before they actually try to go for any kind of execute. But they are shaping up now for a very direct A play.
Certainly appears to be the case. Fairness to G2, they've not budged an inch either. Keeping themselves spread across the map. Third player starting to dart in onto the A side, which is Scream. He originally was looking through mid. Realizes that this execute has to come in soon. Smith's on forklift, waiting for the push. Here comes the smoke. The one taps are real though. Scream and Smith. Shocks, meanwhile, he's going to pick up the kill onto Captain Mo. There's Scream again, and a third one. And he could very well pick up a fourth for himself as he's just on the opposite side of the box to somebody. Lands it. Beautiful play from Scream. And G2 will pick up the second pistol round, and how important that might be.
Just a pile of corpses sitting outside of Squeakier in there too. Scream dominates the entire playing field. Him along with Smith there too, coming in at a fairly big impact, and Shoxaforce helping out there too, but Smiths do end up going down a little bit early on there. It's Scream though that has the big play towards the end of it and does not even let them get close to the bomb site. So TyLoo not going to be making the impact early on here. Will not keep their lead going. Will be immediately tied up. However, TyLoo are going to go for the second round force-up. Tech 9 armor buys on the CZ and P250 buy for Attacker and Fancy.
Yeah, just the one lonely assault rifle in the hands of our PK is going to be the FAMAS. So this farming potential is pretty massive for G2. Also affords them, with MP9s, to play a bit more aggressively and look for information. You lose an MP9, no big deal. As a result, you can see them filtering out. Double stack over on forklift side. Shocks, not sure if that was a flash or not, turned his back on it, but he's going to be able to recover very easily. Lands himself the shot. Here comes Scream. Smiths as well. Everyone's chiming in with kills. Smiths has bit the dust, but it's at the cost of 3 TyLoo plays. Make that 4 now. Make it all of them. Nice round from G2, and that was a force-in for TyLoo as they didn't get the bomb plant in the first round.
And again, a bit unfortunate too with how much they forced into that last one. They don't really make that big of an impact. Don't even find themselves the plan amongst the chaos of what was happening there when they went for it. G2 just hold the line. Don't even let them get past the big red box, try and get into the plant zone there. So nicely held by those guys, and definitely going to be looking to stack up the cash on this one. And to note too, it's another force-up from TyLoo. They've gone right into the fray as far as the buy is concerned. Same thing as last round. Tech 9 buys, P250 for one of them, but they've all gone for it here, and that includes utility this time as well.
Could be the mind games, just G2 not expecting the double force-up, and you can see that Smith's got a bit greedy. Gets punished, that's going to be a weapon across to the hands of TyLoo. Again, it is just the MP9, I say that, but it has just roared on into the site. 2 kills come down in quick succession, and TyLoo will have the bomb plant. The incendiary lands, it's not going to deter DD from planting. In actual fact, he has 0 cover from his teammates. What is going on, TyLoo? This should have been yours comfortably. It still could be, but at the cost of a few more lives. All falls on body.
He's going to try to pick up that first kill, but he had this. Oh my goodness. What happened at the end there?
That is scrappy Counter-Strike.
Bit chaotic, but at the end of the day, TyLoo do win it. Keep this very close battle off of that third round force.
Body had the chance of a lifetime to get the kill on forklift, whiffs it, somehow gets the kill, and then he gets picked off as well. Because why not? Shot 24 and 11. Top fragging for both teams. Very nice performance so far. Scream with 17 kills. And I said before, Body lackluster first half, but you expect him to pick it up.
So for G2 here now, just immediately buying right back into it. Thankfully they had their rounds go pretty comfortably in their favor, so they are able to afford getting right back into the buy. But with TyLoo picking up the victory there, they're also able to afford buying up quite more comfortably here with rifles in the play this time. Not just working with the Tech 9s anymore. able to upgrade themselves this time, and this would technically remark itself as the first gun, although both teams are working with their own set of handicaps. Mainly in the fact that they're not really going to be able to go for full utility buys on either side.
Could certainly hamper TyLoo, as when it comes to individual skill, G2 definitely are a couple of steps ahead, so need to fall back to that utility wherever possible. 3 smokes in the hands of the Chinese. Darting back and forward is fancy. Bullets whizzing past his head, but nothing's connected. TyLoo not really getting any real estate so far, but they have plenty of time to play with. They can still bide their time, wait, see if maybe G2 put themselves in a precarious position. Seemingly mid is the focal point for TyLoo. As of yet, 3 players there starting to force their way out of mid, and G2 have given that up completely so far.
Going to toss the molly to hold any additional pressure that may be coming into the site. And he actually evacuated out of checkers just in the nick of time because TyLoo just flooded their way inside of here. 3 players now taking up positions with another one falling back actually from the B tunnels to try and lurk for another flank and watch out for anybody on G2 that may work their way around it. Body though is impacting in a big way. He's found 2 kills before he finally goes down into a Scream wrapping back in from heaven. It's all left in the hands of Fancy now. He was not even going to be able to win his own first 1v1. Scream pushes back out. He ends up with a 3 kill on this round. Big impact and a very mobile player there too. Gives the lead back to the guys on the CT side.
Another force from TyLoo.
Full throttle into this half here, not even caring about the repercussions of that one.
Have they been watching eFrag's team? Like, just force whenever you can, boys. 1400, force.
That are just watching Semphis demos from like a year ago. Back when he was on a team with Hiko and whatnot.
I guess the idea here actually is solid if this is what TyLoo's thought process is, that G2's economy still hasn't quite started to flourish. So if they can take a bunch of weapons away, win the round, G2 are broke again. So maybe that's factoring into the mindset of TyLoo, but the issue is they themselves don't have a great one. If they lose this round, they're right back to the drawing board again themselves, and they are starting to get into that position where these rounds are super important. Body darting through the smoke is going to give him a bit of leeway to get behind the box, but meanwhile TyLoo, all 5 players strong, will be rotating their way over to the A side.
Everybody wrapping into it now. Pushing their way inside of A main. They'll try to go for the execute. Not bad to start this off. They've had a couple mini confrontations and they brought Shocks and Smiths down a little bit. So they've done some damage early on, but this falls mainly to G2 now to be able to get the read on this one and catch the overflow. That'll come into the A side pretty shortly. Right now it's mainly just going to be Smiths holding it. Shocks a little bit further back, only 37 HP. This is a good aggression coming out from Smith, though. He's going to find the first kill, but he is overwhelmed by the push that comes out through Squeaky. Somebody responds, takes him right out of the picture, and Shocks, like we talked about before, with him being brought so low, he can't afford to actively push back into this. That's a good tap from Scream, though. Takes down somebody, and just like that, again, they got the man advantage for the CTs.
That's such an important, impactful kill, just to make sure they have that little bit added advantage on the retake. Body puts down the hammer onto Captain Mo, leaving Attacker and DD. All that remains, Attacker behind quad. DD on A main, gets picked off from RPK. Need to land that if they wanted any chance at clutching this round. Now the P250s, all that stands between G2 and this defuse, and it's not going to do anything. G2 will take a 2-round lead now. And considering at one point this was 7-3 in the hands of TyLoo, how quickly this map has turned.
Good formation there for G2 as well on the retake itself and the way that they're playing that together constantly. Always making sure that in the event they're caught off guard by somebody on TyLoo holding a position, they always have somebody there to make sure it's traded out efficiently by a teammate in the event one of them goes down. So good positions being played, and at the end of the day now G2, they finally got a lead going for themselves, which they should be able to hold. And this is where TyLoo meets the bad part of this constant forcing. Now that they've finally run into a position where it's not really viable for them to do it anymore, G2 are going to start to build up a bank regardless of what they do now. Now they have to start from square one, building up their own sort of bank, and they've given G2 the lead. They never really had a cushion to work with, even at the beginning of this half, so it was a bit odd to see them going for that when they didn't have the rounds to work with to allow it.
Fast B play is imminent, but G2 are up to the task. Fancy, the only player to break the deadlock for TyLoo, but he will not live very long to celebrate that fact. TyLoo with a buy. They have round loss coming in, so it's going to bolster their economy, of course, but it's going to be at the cost of no warp, I assume, unless Fancy wants to go for the glass cannon. Nope, full AKs are in play. TyLoo, though, are running out of time. They're running out of rifle rounds. They've got to start making some of these count.
And to start it off, this is going to be extremely direct, at least from the look of it at the beginning of things. TyLoo moving their way up to try and get early mid control, along with a couple players, probably going to shuffle their way inside of AMH. Good start from Captain Mo. Denies Scream even the position he wanted to get into there by the sandbag, shuts him down, and now they should be able to easily take control of Highway and start their push up to the site.
What a shot that is as well. Onto Scream of all people. He's not a guy that gets out-aimed that often. Ridiculous stuff from Captain Mo. But can they do anything with this? It's all well and good getting the first kill. It's what you do with that that counts on the T side. And so far, after that opening brilliant play, it has gone to a standstill for TyLoo.
Ended up being such a quick play. I don't even think Scream was able to really just get himself into the position he wanted to. Didn't even really have time to post up to begin with. He was sort of out in the open, still getting to that spot when he was actually eliminated. That Molly, though, it's going to be good. It should force RPK out, but he's not. All right.
Why would you throw that Molly and then just run away?
I'm going to give you the courtesy to retreat. It seemed. That did make no sense.
That's pointless utility then. If you're not going to stick around to make sure that you get the frag if he comes out, then why throw it in the first place?
So regardless, though, TyLoo pull back very quickly and now start the execute out onto the A-bomb. Say Body picking up 2 very quick kills, though. So we see the initial trades coming out there for TyLoo. Attacker responding back, being able to take down RPK, but Fancy leaves himself out in the open, so Body's going to find another pickup. It's all into the hands of Attacker all of a sudden. He's got a good angle against Shocks, but he actually misses the kill. He's got them both very, very low, but he also needs to plant the bomb. 18 seconds left. Either go out and frag right now or try to find a place to plant this bomb, but you can't do both here. Attacker lurking out, misses the shot on Body, and now they know he's here too, and they know the time's so low. Moves in, and again, this is going to be such an odd decision. He knows they're close up here. All he's going to do is give them better positions to overwhelm him, and it's Shocks that lurks over to his left. It's just going to take him down. G2 win that round where, in all honesty, they had no business doing so.
They played that very well at the end, though, just shoulder peeking, keeping him interested for an extra few seconds, so he felt obligated to go for the full plant. That allowed them to wrap themselves around and stalk him. But again, there's a couple of really questionable plays in that round from TyLoo that I don't think I'll fully understand. Maybe the idea is to quickly wrap around mid, in which case, why are you throwing the molly in the first place?
Yeah, all it's going to do is progress that rotation for your opponents as you push them out into the site.
I'm always a stickler for that. Like, if you're going to throw utility, make it count for something. Don't just throw it out for the sake of doing it. You know, flashbang, smokes, whatever it is. Like, have a reason for doing those things. TyLoo go for another force, and they have very, very little utility to use. Like, just 2 smokes, that's it.
Using a couple flashbangs on it very early on in the round here just to scare a couple of the members of G2, but it's not going to work out, which means in all reality these smokes need to be played together into one site, but it's not the case. Captain Mo's on his lonesome here inside of A main, and the other smoke is in the hands of DD currently, getting ready to posture up for a B hit. Leading the charge as well with a bomb, which could prove pretty scary if we can see Body perform well with these first couple of pickups.
Fancy actually gets the drop onto Body. That is surprising. He did eat 98% of his health. That's a massive opening pick, but now it should be a clean up from the rest of G2. RPK is there. Unbeknownst to him, Fancy's just below him. There's the next kill for RPK. Really showing up on the CT side. Can he round things off? Absolutely can. 4 kills for him. G2 now move 1 step closer to winning this map, and the fact that TyLoo went for that force buy leaves them on mid $3,000. So what's the play here? Do they just go for the all-out force? Do they go for a half buy? Well, I think Captain Mo just answered that question. Force up it is.
Continuing it once again, and I mean, just to touch for a moment here again on how fast RPK's managed to recover as an individual. Again, stemming from that, what appeared to be like the miracle pause G2 did in the first half. Ever since then, at that pause, he was only sitting at a single frag, and ever since then, he's now progressed immensely, currently tied with Scream and overall frags. Body, again, though, has actually been another very big player so far on the CT side. As I think you were mentioning previously, he's able to hold things initially as he goes aggressively outside of the B-bomb site. Attacker will respond, but again, there's Body now with a second in this round, taking down Attacker, but he's also going to be eliminated by Fancy. So the guys from G2 are not in the clear just as of yet.
Yeah, he really is one of the best players when it comes to holding checkered that I've seen. I think he does fantastic work there. He's so solid. Has a sixth sense for when to peek and when not to. G2 still retain the player advantage. Fancy's down very low, and now he is the last remaining player for TyLoo. A bit surprised they didn't also call a timeout themselves, by the way. You know, you mentioned it before for G2. I feel around 13-9 would have been probably the best time to pull a trigger and call a timeout and just try and do what G2 did, stop the momentum. That's all in the past. Smith is going to round it off, and G2 now have 6 map points.
I feel like after round number 4, probably would have been the best place because they pick up that first round on the third one after G2 started off strong with their 2 wins, and obviously they get the mind game advantage a bit by going for the second continuous force. But after they lose the round that comes up immediately after that one, at that point in time, I feel like it would have been a great opportunity to sort of pause and recenter themselves, because clearly what they were doing wasn't working, but I think they continued to force for like 2 more rounds after that, so they were very, very set on doing that kind of a strategy, and I don't think they wanted to slow it down by any degree. Just constantly keeping the pressure on G2 in hopes that they would eventually break them, but all it's done is just cause a complete destabilization of their T-side economy, which has never really been corrected in this entire half.
That's the thing, they're just throwing constant punches, but they're breaking their own fists. Like, they're actually harming themselves. Scream from Forklift and Shocks as well, both with double kills, and there we go. That pretty much is the summarize of the game. Shocks and Scream step up, wrecking house, and G2 take a convincing win in the end, although the start was anything but convincing. It was 7-3 at one point. TyLoo only end up with 9 rounds. I think that just goes to show how much this turned back around on its head. Yeah,
absolutely. So 16-9 for the map, and with that ending day one's overall games that have been played, I think that actually makes it a fairly straightforward day one. The only real sort of upset that I think may have happened was Gambit taking the match over Optic. Yeah, how dominant Optic looked coming off of the minor.
I felt like that was a coin flip game, though. Honestly, it wasn't. It wasn't as if coming into that you thought Optic were guaranteed certainties. The biggest surprise for me was actually Fluffy Gangsters taking Mouse Sports and Dust 2 to overtime. I thought that would be a clinical win, but anything but.
But that's going to separate the pools now, and that makes the matches even harder, especially for the teams that have won games today going into it, because now the teams that have won games are all going to take each other on tomorrow, and the teams that have lost games are all going to take each other on tomorrow. Now, note there won't be any repeat matches happening, of course, as we get over to the next couple of days. But we'll throw that over to Machine to talk a little bit more about that, as the analysts are ready to break this game down.
Yeah, we're going to make this a brief one. Thanks very much, Blue. It has been a spectacular day, and now we pose to reflect just on our final game. It's been 8 best of 1s here to kick off our Swiss format. Now I've got Vendetta and Natu to hang out and talk a little bit about... Damn it, TyLoo! Like, come on. I mean, like, that's... Those opening 8 rounds, I'm sitting there and I'm just rubbing my hands together going, oh man, oh.
It's happening.
It's real. Like the Malmo TyLoo was legit and it's carrying on. They suddenly beat a hot G2, but no, that dream died very quickly.
Well, I think it was primarily their own undoing as well. Honestly, we talked about it, I think it was at 7-3.
Yeah.
Or it might have been 7-2 or
7-2, I think.
Yeah, where they decided to do a force buy, and that just kind of unraveled everything, because they got a buy up in the next round, but it wasn't a full buy. They didn't have the grenades to hold the G2 back. They couldn't even potentially have aggressive peaks off of flashbangs, pop flashes, and that sort of thing, and we took full advantage.
And also
G2.
Yeah. Also in the previous round, 2-on-1 after-plan situation in favor of TyLoo. Captain Mo decides to take a peek toward checkers and just gets demolished. And that's how they lose it, and that's how they got into those situations in the first place. So had they not done that, you never know. They might have just ran away with it a little bit on that CT side, and then we might have been looking at a different kind of a scoreline.
Yeah. It did look like kind of Screaming Shocks hit the ground running in their second half, and TyLoo just got a little lost. Was that just G2 kind of waking up, or was that TyLoo kind of falling to that force buy culture?
I think it was TyLoo falling to that force buy culture. I would have been really excited to see what they could actually do with the actual full buy, but we pretty much didn't get to see that for the better part of the T side.
Did we have a T side AWP?
No, I don't think we did actually. No, I'm pretty sure we didn't. They were pretty much force buying up with Tech 9s, and then they, on the second force buy in round 3 of the second half, they finally break through the defense of G2. Somewhat surprisingly, I think G2 definitely got caught off guard by that. But losing the next round, getting completely reset, all of a sudden, they have really shoddy buys where you see predominantly AKs and one nade, and that's all they have to work with.
Yeah.
So sure, they did a couple of solid moves. They had a pretty decent mid take, etc., that landed them an opening frag and whatnot, but not having the nades to actually go in on the side and actually retake it.
Yeah, and we liked the way they approached it, right? Like they had that again, that passive style. They just left mid open, said, "All right, take it." That's fine by it, and it did work on their CT side.
I think G2
just closing thoughts from you now.
Yeah, I think G2 kind of got surprised by it in the beginning. Like they were trying to just go into the bomb site by, like you saw, like from 3-8 main with Shocks, he's trying to kind of make his way to the bomb site, but it should be kind of obvious you're gonna have a lot of gun barrels aiming at you against a team like TyLoo. But well, it worked out in the end, so.
Yeah,
all
it really did.
Beautiful stuff. Well, it's been first day of 4 for the offline qualifiers. Every team is either a step forward or a step back towards getting to that slot in the major. Of course, 3 wins you're in, 3 losses you are out. And we do see Scream and Mitch standing by to talk about his 1-taps and more to round out our day. It's just one of many, Mitch.
Truer words haven't been spoken. Thank you, Alex. I'm here with the man himself as well after a very, very strong second half in that game. But as always, we'll start with the first one, shall we? You did call a timeout when it started to seem that TyLoo were building up some momentum here. I do want to know what you guys were talking about, because TyLoo were playing a very strange, aggressive style towards you guys on that CT side.
Well, to resume the beginning, we just run around the map. Like, we're not so focused in the game, and I mean, we still won the pistol round. I think, I don't know, it was clutch 1-on-1, and I won it, so it was a good beginning. But then we just run around the map, like we didn't really focus on the game, and yeah, then we just called a timeout and we just chill a little bit and play our own game, and then it worked out. I don't know.
So how do you respond to this as well? Because we were sitting watching the game and thought, this is quite strange. TyLoo were force buying 3 times in a row and going for the same A execute on the T side specifically, just getting really aggressive and hoping to get picks. Is that intimidating for you guys? Were you frustrated by it? Or was it something that you just locked in and dealt with fairly quickly?
Yeah, we lost one round like this when they force buy, like the third round of like the CT side. But yeah, it kind of surprised us, but yeah, I mean, I don't know, we were not surprised of their game. We didn't know what to expect play against them, but we knew they always play so stuck, like always together, and I don't know, they didn't have much control of the map and stuff like this, so they didn't bother us, and yeah, we just played perfect CT side, and I don't know, easy game, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, the guys pointed out, they did say TyLoo give up a lot of map control. They're in favor of just trying to put a lot of people on one site. So, I mean, you and Shox as well. Both of you specifically have definitely been enjoying some excellent performances lately, and unironically as well, you're up at the top of the scoreboard after this game. Has there been a mentality change for you guys as well? Do you know what it has been? Because obviously you've always been top players, but now we're seeing this every game, strong performances from specifically you two.
Yeah, well, since we changed our player body for existence, so yeah, it has a big impact of our individual game, because now we play more freedom. Like we play more, everyone can do whatever they want. Like there are still some limits, but like everyone can do whatever they want, and and just show up, and that's why I guess we are better now, and I feel better in the team now, so that's why I'm better, I guess. And I mean, Shox, he's always been really good, and yeah, of course now he's showing up a lot, so I'm happy about it. But I mean, everyone in the team is showing up lately. Everyone is stepping up, so it feels good, and hopefully we can qualify for the major.
Well, it should feel good. Good game from you guys there today as well. We'll see you tomorrow, of course. Thanks for joining me. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Get some rest, mate. Of course, tomorrow, winners play winners and losers play losers. But you heard it from FaZe as well. It's the same sentiment. Now coming into this team, getting to play a more free-flowing game style and just kind of turn up and frag seems to work out for a lot of these teams over the rigidity of having a strict coaching regime. It'll be interesting to see how that conversation particularly evolves over the course of these next few days, but we do now have to bring things to a close, ladies and gentlemen. We've had 8 games, 8 best of ones today. As the caster said, not too many surprising results, but tomorrow should be exciting, of course. All those teams who won today will play against each other, and the same for those teams that didn't win. So we're going to be kicking things off here from 12:30, same time, same bat channel, of course. We'll be starting off with a pre-show, then jumping straight into our 8 more best of ones tomorrow, guys. Don't miss it. We'll be here. Some good games to come.